All right, now on to what I think again is one of the best of the mini consoles. This is the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. Yeah, if anybody knows what that is, go ahead and let me know there in the chat. The TG16 Mini was released in May of 2020. It has 57 games, it's 720p, and it came with one controller. And this controller, of course, it was known as the Turbo Pad, and it mimicked or mirrored, the other type of game pads, either from Sega or most closely Nintendo from the original NES. The nice thing about this version of it, though, it also has these buttons that allow for rapid fire, so you weren't, basically getting thumb cramps while going ahead and playing. And of course, like all the other boxes, it includes pictures of the game, art on the background there, and they use the same style and font and colors of the original machine. But this one's a pretty big mini, as minis go. So I'm going to move this out of the way. And here is the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. This is 1/2 the size of, or 50% smaller than the original TurboGrafx-16 console that launched here in the United States. This is also known as the PC Engine in the Asian markets. They even included this cover on the back of the system, and this would house the place that you would plug in the AV converter, so that way you could get component out, or rather composite out, instead of having to use the RF interface. It's also how you went and connected to the TurboGrafx-16 CD-ROM setup, which was the first console at home to actually use the CD-ROM format, and it included the ability to go ahead and remove the CD-ROM player and take it with you, although it didn't have any batteries, so you had to take it with you to plug in somewhere else, but you could take it with you and use it as a CD player. And so this serves no purpose in the mini version other than to cover up where the cables plug, and because that is what it looked like when we were playing on the TurboGrafx-16 when it was launched. And this was the first really step into the 16-bit era. Although there was some, controversy or discussion about whether or not it was actually a 16-bit system, like a Sega Genesis, which came out later. Didn't matter. The fact is the games in here were just amazing. And what I love about this, you'll see in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the HDMI cable on the back here, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in our power cable, which is a little difficult to do on this system because of where they decided to put the plug. So bear with me one moment. There we go. Yeah, you can see that it's designed to sit in here, and then you pop this cable in, and then you can close it with this, and so then it just resembles the TurboGrafx-16 as you remember it. All right, so let me go ahead and pop in this controller here, and let's go ahead and fire up the TurboGrafx-16 Mini system, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so here we go. There's the TurboGrafx and the TurboGrafx-16 box. I'm gonna have to turn this lengthwise just because, again, of how big this mini system is. And when you first fire this up, you'll notice that it says the PC Engine Core Graphics. This was the name of the system in other markets. So it was known as the TurboGrafx-16 here. It was known as the PC Engine in the Asian markets. It was known as the Core Graphics System in the European markets. So what I could do is go down to options here. And if you listen to the music for the Core Graphics, I could change it to be the TurboGrafx, and now it looks like the TurboGrafx-16 that we in the United States remember. And so you can go ahead and flip through all of these, the different games in the game library that they have here that were available in the US market. Now, what is, and that was another sound that probably came through on this recording, so my apologies there. So, it had the cover art that you could see here, but what I love is the way they used audio from that era to make the experience that much richer. So as I go into Bonk's Revenge, for example, what you'll hear is the clicking of the cartridge into the system itself. There's no real cartridge being plugged in, but that is part of the experience. And so they went ahead and included it here as well. And so here we go, jumping into Bonk's Revenge. This one really just an absolutely fantastic, lovely game. And this was basically the TurboGrafx-16's mascot named Bonk. And he would just use his big head there to go ahead and take out enemies and make his way to the end of the levels there and capture these butterflies for points and bite into the waterfall to make his way up the level here. And when you would go ahead and jump onto these little flowers, sometimes they would release bonuses. Sometimes they would release, I think we're going to see here. Oh, that's just bonus as well. They release meat that Bonk eats to become Mega Bonk and go crazy and take out enemies on the level. But again, you could see these games just looked different than what we saw on the Nintendo, right, at the time, because we were moving into more sophisticated hardware and into more capable systems that allowed us to have bigger stories, bigger worlds to explore, and bigger adventures. And what's nice about, or interesting about the Bonk game is that in the later versions of Bonk, at one point he becomes basically 2/3 the size of the screen. Speaking of which, look at the size of the boulders that are coming down the screen to go ahead and, it hurt poor Bonk as he makes his way out of that level. All powered by the advancement in the hardware that we just didn't have in the earlier systems there. So there we go. Let's see if I can jump up, right, and collect those. So yeah, Bonk, and really just an awesome little game. And again, it lets me go over to the save menu where I can go ahead and pick a save slot and return to the game later. If I go back to the menu here, one of the things I do want to show you is by going ahead and changing the language from English to Japanese, what the developers have done is they have replaced all of the art in the console with the Japanese cover art and the Japanese titles. And not all of the games, so each one of the system versions in this mini console have a different, not a different set of games, but some games that were included or excluded based on the region they were in. So you have to go ahead and dig through the entire mini console to find all of the games strewn through about the different versions of this console in the different markets. Again, just really a lovely way to go ahead and demonstrate not only its place in the world at the time it was released, but the different types of games, different types of music, different types of art in the different regions in which it also existed. So again, just really absolutely lovely little console, and my favorite really of all of the mini game systems. Really, all of the mini game systems. So a couple of questions here is, Chris, do you have the N64 pack for the Switch? I do have the N64 pack for the Switch. Again, really wonderful way to experience those games, and of course on a beautiful OLED screen of the OLED Switch that I have, or on a big screen TV. But there's something about having the physical console there, having the controller that was actually the same size, shape, and weight of the original that you remember. It's not just the games, it's the experience that brings it all back to us, right? That brings it all back together. So those are the collection of mini consoles that I absolutely love. In fact, I just started up Alien Crusher. I know that we're a little over time, but I'm going to take a few more minutes out of your lovely day to show you what happens when we choose a CD-based game. Again, the designers went all out to make sure you got the full experience of the TurboGrafx-16 or the TurboGrafx-16. So this is a CD game. We plug in the super card, and now you can hear the CD-ROM spinning as the system is booting this up. Lords of Thunder, Gates of Thunder, these two games were really known for their soundtrack. A lot of hair metal, screeching guitar music in these. And of course, at that time, we didn't have CD-ROM or CD quality audio for the vast majority of games that were out there. So the TurboGrafx-16 was really the first system that brought that CD quality audio to the games that we played. And if you just listen here for a moment, you can hear that guitar rock, right? Yeah, that is a cool little effect regarding the CD spinning. That's exactly right. Thanks, Big Taro. So Yeah, let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of. We'll choose, let's choose Fire Armor, right? There we go. Devil's Crush wasn't too bad. Devil's Crush is actually my favorite video pinball game of all time. The game is extraordinary. And what I love too about it and the time it was released is some of the graphics were problematic, let's say, in the United States because of the type of imagery that it presented. Loved it. And you have to remember, as a kid, having access to that made it a bit more forbidden, made it a bit cooler, made it a bit more fun to go ahead and play. But again, so here we are in, I think, Lord's Thunder, and you have that incredible soundtrack and just a really good, fun, approachable shoot 'em up. And you can see it's using parallax scrolling. It uses alternate pathing. Big enemies that come out of the ground there. We just didn't see this on the systems of the era, or if we did, they were typically slower. It didn't have the same fidelity audio. They didn't have the same amount of colors, the same number of sprites on screen, right? The TurboGrafx-16, of course, did it all. Isn't that right? Yes, that is right. And so let me see. If I can go ahead and beat this guy here, which I probably won't because I didn't have... Oh, there we go. The body now actually becomes a blocker for you moving throughout the environment. So you now have to stay above it. And you can see it's blocking me from going down past the bottom of the screen. So this is a game that, again, creates massive enemies on screen, incredible audio, and just takes me right back to when these games were first released. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and get into, if you just want to experience, right, taste, games of those eras, you don't necessarily have to go ahead and put together a massive collection of consoles and hardware in your home. Go ahead and find yourself one of these mini game collections, these mini game consoles, and plug into your childhood and share that with your friends.